Hi folks, it's Emma Grant here from Heartfelt Change. Welcome to anyone who is able to be here watching live. I'm talking slowly at this point to give people a chance to catch up because there always seems to be a delay on Facebook. So that's it. I can see folk dropping in now. So welcome to those of you who are watching live, and welcome to those of you who are watching on replay, and also a very big welcome to those of you who are catching me on Open FM. I show up as having two programs on Open FM on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock and Thursdays at 2:30. So you can listen there as well. So welcome to you all, however you're tuning in. So my name's Emma Grant. And as always, just drop a wee hello in the chat so I can see who it is. I know there's a couple of people who never say anything in the chat, and I sort of wish there was just a reaction button. I could call out your names. You can give me a thumbs up or something. Anyway, I won't call out your names. It's lovely that you're here, whether you're commenting in the chat or not. Oh, I've got Dirk with me today. Hello, Dirk. Dirk was probably attracted because my photography post on Instagram was featuring his beautiful table in my post advertising this live. So okay, so today I'm going to be looking at guilt. This is the fourth in a series looking at attitudes that we have. My business is Heartfelt Change, and I support people to find more joy in their lives. I support people to become more aware of themselves in their lives, and by doing so to sort of be able to make more conscious choices as to how you're actually going to live your life. So today we're looking at guilt, and as I say, this is the fourth in a series of 6 where I've been exploring attitudes that we hold, and I've been asking 2 questions. One question is, are you aware of the attitudes that you have? And the other question is more reflective even. It's asking you whether these attitudes that you have, do they serve you well or not? And if you find this interesting, then you can check out my website, and I've got a sort of body of live streams on there talking about, well, the first 3 in the series, but talking about other things as well. Okay, so guilt. There's 2 kind of headline ways that I'm thinking of that we can look at guilt. The first one is kind of like when you've veered off your moral compass, whatever your moral compass is. If you've come adrift on your moral compass and you have a sense that you really should not have done something that you've done. So with this, it's, I don't know, for me that guilt can be quite kind of, in the moment it can be, I talk about having sort of clean emotions that are in the moment, that are not sort of building up on past stories. So with that kind of guilt, you can learn lessons from it. You can decide whether you're going to repeat a certain behaviour or not. And this could be anything from, I don't know, whatever your moral compass is. I'm not going to get into examples of moral compasses, but you kind of get the idea. The second version of having a guilty attitude is what we're actually going to be diving into a bit more deeply today, because I think it's something that is more subconscious. It's a more sort of unconscious attitude that we have, and it's that sort of underlying feeling that you could have done more, that you should have behaved differently, that if you had behaved in a certain way, then X, Y, and Z would have happened or wouldn't have happened, whatever the scenario is. So the reason I was thinking about this, apart from it being sort of personally relevant to me, I'm reading a book at the moment that sort of was talking about one of the main characters has these two incidents where she meets someone who's wanting to commit suicide, and then at the weekend there, I was at a party and I was chatting to a nurse practitioner who works in Glasgow, and she was telling me stories of the folk that she deals with, and there was basically a patient of hers who ended up committing suicide, and this lassie was really, really dealing with what could I have done? Did I do enough? Should I have said something different? Could I have said something more? And what occurred to me as I'm chatting to her was that if someone has a positive experience, or there's a positive story, and if we support that person in the positive story, so say you're supporting your a friend to pass an exam, or you're supporting someone to take part in a marathon, or to whatever it is, buy a house, whatever the supportive story is. If we are supporting someone and it is a positive outcome, then we're very quick to allow the person that we are supporting to have their own free will within that. And although we know we may have played a part, we may have played a supporting role, we don't take it on us. We don't take the responsibility of whatever the outcome is, because we know that person's got their own power and they're going to decide what they're doing with their life. Now, if it's a negative outcome, then we are much faster to slip into the "have I done enough? Could I have done more?" And that sort of that guilty feeling of not having done enough. If any of this is making sense, then do let me know. I've just seen a wee note from Pam there. Pam, thanks for joining. She's just saying that her Wi-Fi speed is terrible, so she's going to have to find this on replay. So that'll be nice to hear from you in the chat. Pam, do put your thoughts when you're watching on replay, and if anyone else would like to join in. Open FM listeners, you're kind of stuffed on this one. You need to just email me with your thoughts separately. So the reason I'm telling that story about the sort of rather extreme version of someone committing suicide is that I would put forward that guilty feeling when it's a negative outcome, that guilty feeling actually comes from there being a place inside us that is being triggered when there's a negative outcome. And if we were to stop and pay attention to ourselves in that moment, then we may well notice a sense in ourselves of not being enough. And then when the outcome is not a good outcome, we then sink into that story of what we could have done, what we should have done. So there's that. It's good to just try and be aware of what is going on, what is going on and what is triggering you. For me and with my mum being manic depressive from a very early age, I was really aware of the pain that she was in, the sort of anguish that she was in, and I saw friends and family being scared off, like she'd go psychotic and I would never blame anyone from deciding not to hang out with her, because she was scary, man. She was scary. As kids, we didn't really have much of a choice. It's like, that was it. That's what we were stuck with. But I was just aware of, this. It's like she'd go psychotic. She'd terrify people. They'd leave and never want to come back. And then once she sort of had come back into herself, I'd see the pain in her and the sort of sense of loss of not having anyone close by her, and that feeling of not being loved. So the reason I'm telling that is that what I took from that as a kid was, or one of the things I took from that as a kid was that I thought that if I loved her enough, if I was able to demonstrate to her that however scary she was, I was not going to leave her. If I could be enough, then that would cure her. That would make her better. So that didn't work, obviously. That didn't work. But this has left me with a story and a sense of, or this is the story behind why I have that sort of, quite sort of deep-seated rut inside me that I can fall into, where I don't feel good enough. I don't feel like I've done enough. And however much work you do on this kind of thing, you can still be triggered by stuff, can't you? You can still, fall into the rut of these thought patterns, of these stories, of these old stories, perceptions that you have. But the trick is, it's like, how aware are you of it? So just to sort of lighten up the chat away from suicidal thoughts. Dirk saying very, very current. Thanks for this sort of thinking of what I was talking about. So that's good. So just to lighten up, so how what's my example of this being triggered recently? So we got a cat over lockdown. We had two cats. One of them decided to try and kiss a truck at the top of the hill, and the truck carried on and the cat didn't. So we then had one cat. Lockdown, let's get another cat. So we got a cat. So this is like back in, it's over a year ago now, right? So with all the not allowed to go to things, vets being closed down, whatever, emergencies only. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I have not yet had this cat spayed. So I found myself the other day starting to feel really guilty about not having taken the right action for this cat. And I started going into this whole storyline about how I now didn't want to go to the vets because they were going to make me feel guilty. And I caught myself, and it's like, they're going to make me feel guilty. That's a really interesting concept, and maybe someone there would raise an eyebrow at me not having brought the cat in good time. But really, it's not the worst sin in the world, is it? But I'm jumping into this story, and by getting into this whole story of then feeling guilty that I should have done more, I should have, as well as everything else I was doing during lockdown and whole, blah blah blah, as well as doing everything else, I should have kept an eye on the vets, and I should have brought Diego in to get neutered, as soon as. So I'm feeding this whole story, and I'm starting to feel guilty, and they're going to make me feel guiltier, and I don't want to do this now. So I'm still not taking the damn cat to the vets. I am going to take the cat to the vets. It's the end of this story. I am going to take it. So the thing is, though, it's like I could have noticed all these constructs, all these stories that I'm telling. I noticed the construct of the vet is going to make me feel guilty, therefore I don't want to put myself in that situation. And then I noticed that actually, the guilt's already in there, and fair dues, I should have taken the cat in. it's not it's not very responsible pet ownership. But then I'm going into layers of it, and I'm telling myself a whole big story about what a bad person I am for not having done enough around the cat. So it's like, I've got awareness of thinking that things are external, which is a load of rubbish. I've got an awareness of that actually, this is not great and I should just take action. So there we go. That's a clean emotion. And then I've got an awareness of the whole storyline that I'm telling myself, that I'm feeding myself about what a bad person I am because I've not taken the cat into the vet. So awareness, honestly, in my opinion, awareness leads to you laughing at yourself a lot more. Because tell you what, see, if you're not laughing, you're crying. So you may as well be laughing at all the idiotic things that you end up doing. That's Joy joining in, and she's saying it's making lots of sense. So as I've said before on these posts, I've kind of said, what's the point of all this chat? What's the point of all this ruminating? Where does it get us to? And I think most people spend a lot of time in their heads. They spend a lot of time in their heads with whatever stories are going round. And I can certainly spend a whole heap of time, or was spending a whole heap of time, telling myself stories of what I should have done. But it actually just ended up paralysing me. So the damn cat still hasn't made it into the vet. So today's stories that I'm telling you, my own sort of reflection on my past and where that rut of not being good enough has started. That story and the story of the nurse and the feeling of like the feeling that you maybe haven't done enough for someone, which is actually taking quite a lot of power away from that person as well. But that's maybe a topic for another day. It's like we don't actually have that much power over people, is something to say, something to think about. So today's stories are, I suppose I'm just really wanting folk to have a yearning to seek a greater awareness of themselves, and to ask yourself the question, are you acting in the moment? Are you being paralysed by your attitudes? Are there stories running and creating attitudes that are affecting you now? And my big kind of takeaway from today is, we can't change what may have happened in the past to create these grooves. That's happened. But what we can do is we can choose to live our lives now, in the moment, paying attention with as much awareness of ourselves as we can bring to the table. That's what I would encourage people to do. Okay, that's it. My musings are over. If any of this is making sense, then please do write something in the chat. If you sort of have a think about it and you want to sort of ruminate further, then do write something in the chat, and I'll pick up on anything that folk are saying. If you'd like to see anything more about what I'm doing, what I'm up to, then you can jump onto my website, heartfeltchange.co.uk. I'm actually just in the process of changing the domain, the direction the domain name is pointing to. It should all be seamless. But yeah, if you're having any issues getting onto my website, then drop me a line, emma@heartfeltchange.co.uk. And yeah, if there's anything that you are interested in hearing me wax lyrical about, then let me know as well. We've got a couple more in this series on attitudes. So, you know, I'm just kind of going with the flow and seeing what comes up for me as seems pertinent to talk about. Okay, my dears, that's it. I'm going to call it quits for now, and I shall see you around and about. Thank you so much for joining. Cheers for now.